you down with more, lots more.
Folks, I have breaking news. I have the inside scoop. This is not the show where you wrestle with your budget, nor the show where you wrestle with your conscience. It's wrestling with emotion. And if you thought I was going to give you something else, then too bad. Delete. Let's get the panel in here because it is officially the week of the Summerslam. We have a Monday Night Raw that was already past us, Dynamite tonight, and a go-home SmackDown. So who else do I need other than the head of the table himself, Michael J. Partham, and our friend, your friend, our friend, Jake Micah. Gentlemen, does it feel like we're on the road to SummerSlam yet?
Are you sure your sources are accurate that we're on the road to the SummerSlam? We need to double check our people.
Yeah,
here.
I think I will see. Well, according to Twitter, I need to double check with like 3 more before I can actually say anything. So if they're what they're telling me is true, I've heard that we are on the road to SummerSlam.
People are saying. I will say that.
People are saying. So how do we feel? Does it feel like we're on the road to SummerSlam? The card's obviously announced. Sunday night, all championship fights, 3 on Saturday as well. Actually pretty stacked when you break it down. I wasn't really thinking about it the whole time. I was thinking like lackluster builds coming up, but pretty stacked card. What are your guys' thoughts after Monday?
Go ahead, Barthy.
If I'm not mistaken here, we've got a lot of no rules matches. I'm just trying to figure out if night 1 or night 2 is the one that's stacked with more of them. Street fight for the WWE Championship. Triple threat's going to be automatically no DQ. It's blatantly no DQ in the IC women's title match. Steel cage match versus Solo and Jacob for the US title match. 6-pack TLC match. I mean, night 2 is basically Extreme Rules SummerSlam.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining. Jake, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. I wouldn't even realize putting that together, looking at the card now. It is Triple H loves to have finishes with some chaos to it, though. He doesn't he saves his straight wrestling finishes and then loves to throw the chaos in to like surprise, so you can get the surprise like sudden result. I feel like a lot of times, like it's just kind of what they've defaulted to, whether you like it or not. It's become the style of a lot of their main events. And so I expect a lot of tomfoolery, chicanery, skullduggery all night on Sunday.
Don't forget the shenanigans.
Things are about to be broken, as Michael Cole would say. Since it's the week of the SummerSlam, kind of a yearly thing, you know, a SummerSlam, obviously the biggest party of the summer, the wrestling's version of their summertime WrestleMania, if you will. As AEW has started to adapt to their all-in and other pay-per-view styles, just like WWE's modeled these two to be. But SummerSlam obviously been going on for a very long time. If anyone's been on the WWE YouTube, they've been live streaming the greatest SummerSlam matches. I know I've been tuning into some of those. So I wanted to ask you guys, going around the horn, favorite SummerSlam memories, maybe limit to like 2 or 3, just what comes off the top of your head. I will just go ahead and say one real quick because 2 years ago I was in attendance for Io Sky cashing in her Money in the Bank briefcase. That was a really cool moment that I was able to be in person for. But Jake, why don't you get us going?
Well, that's right. So yeah, we were there at SummerSlam a couple years ago, which was an awesome experience to be there live, seeing the Seth Rollins Finn Balor match. That was great. Cody and Redacted was a good one. Gunther's music, the aura from Gunther's entrance music. I think we all gained new respect for Gunther that night. I'll go quick with my other ones though. From when I first got into wrestling, one of the first pay-per-views I ever watched was SummerSlam 2005 with Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. That rivalry is like the main reason I'm a wrestling fan at all. So like that's a really special one. And then fast forward to when I got back into wrestling, the first pay-per-view I bought was the last pay-per-view before the WWE network, the SummerSlam 2014, which was the shocking result of Redacted beating John Cena. But my favorite SummerSlam match in recent memory is the next year. John Cena coming off his crazy U.S. title run facing Seth Rollins in the title for title match. It was just an incredible match, a ridiculous finish with Jon Stewart involved, but an awesome match with two guys who were at the peak of their powers, Rollins and Cena, doing some great stuff. So those are my favorites, honestly.
You know, they have mentioned Brock Lesnar on WWE TV on a rare occasion, so I don't know if he's necessarily name redacted.
I'm redacting him.
You want to talk about name redacted? How about Randy Orton becoming the youngest world heavyweight champion at SummerSlam 2004? We don't necessarily talk about who he beat at that event, but for me personally, one of my earliest memories of WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, was SummerSlam '91, the match made in heaven and the match made in hell. I was too young to, ask my parents to buy the pay-per-view, but I remember the build-up to Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior versus an Iraqi Sergeant Slaughter, the Iron Sheik under a different name, and somebody else was involved in the match, and they had Sid Justice as the referee. Meanwhile, they had a nice little on-screen wedding between the Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth. That was for the kids, the mom and dad already gotten divorced, but they wanted to put on a show for all their fans on there. That was a nice memory. Being back then an Undertaker mark, I was actually one of the few people that was looking forward to The Undertaker versus The Undertaker at SummerSlam 94. And as plotting and slow as a match that was, seeing The Undertaker come back with new music and the blue lights, to me, that's a great memory of mine. Wrestling kind of got away from me for about 4 or 5 years after that, but coming back around 98 and watching The Undertaker take on Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWF title in Madison Square Garden in 1998. As much as an Undertaker fan as I was also a Steve Austin fan, and I knew that Taker was probably likely putting Steve Austin over and put him over clean. There wasn't any attempted outside interference. He just put him over clean and handed him the belt, and JR saying, that's a class move. That's a man's man there. And of course, one of the earlier big memories of SummerSlam was The Rock putting over, I'll say his name, Brock Lesnar. And that was the beginning of the Hollywood Rock, because people were actually booing The Rock in that match, and because they knew he was about to go off to Hollywood, and we would see Hollywood Rock a few months down the road. So SummerSlam, traditionally, it's the time for not only title changes, but for shocking title changes. And usually the heels tend to be the one going over in these type of spots. Especially, you mentioned 2013? I think it was 2013. No, it was 2013. Daniel Bryan winning the WWF title over John Cena, clean, might I add, and then Triple H screwing him over and Randy Orton cashing in. That was a nice double sort of move there. You see Daniel Bryan in a triumphant moment, and then all of a sudden it's taken away from him just as quickly. So there's a lot of turns, a lot of shocking moments that happen at SummerSlam that set the pace going forward for the next half of the year going into WrestleMania season.
Yeah, both great examples brought up by you guys. I stick with the recents because this will be my 3rd year going to SummerSlam in a row. So last year, a great memory for me because of the shock factor in the stadium was Dom Mysterio aligning with Liv Morgan after she had won the women's world heavyweight title in front of Rhea. I mean, that stadium, you could say it was unglued. You could say you could hear a pin drop. You could say all the above, and I'd be like, yes to all of those things. It was so hard to read the emotion in there. Just so funny, shocking, and quite an awesome moment to witness.
So, Slick, being in the stadium, were people just more shocked, or were someone actually elated that they Dom and Liv got together?
There was elation. There was frustration. There was a word for shock that ends with shin. I don't know. It was every emotion you could ever imagine was packed into that. I'd say it was mostly a shock factor, but there were definitely some cheers. I mean, if you heard the pop on TV, probably that stadium reacted crazily. But other than that, my favorite match, SummerSlam history, probably one of the first SummerSlam matches I ever watched. 2 guys that I was invested in their feud heavily growing up. Jeff Hardy versus CM Punk in 2009 in a ladder match for the World Heavyweight title. Punk would go on to win because Jeff basically incapacitated himself jumping off a 30-foot ladder. And then the night would be capped off by The Undertaker returning to chokeslam CM Punk, starting off yet another milestone rivalry. But SummerSlam memories, there's a lot to go on. We could go on for quite a long time, but instead I want to talk about this. Speaking of SummerSlam, leaked SummerSlam card or WrestleMania, was it?
Oh, yeah, it was WrestleMania.
Okay, yes,
what we saw on WWE Unreal.
So I'm going to pull this up here. This is from WWE Unreal. That's how we were able to see this.
Mm-hmm. It's on the whiteboards as we were seeing the writers' room.
Oh my! Someone is really not doing their job. So this is what we got, folks.
Or are they?
Or are they? Exactly.
Or are they? Who knows? I mean, what do you guys make of this? Stone Cold Steve Austin, guest reffing or celebrity reffing Breaker versus Max. Like, what?
We do know that they were trying to get Steve to be there in Vegas. We know that they were trying to get him involved for something. There was never really any direction to what it actually would be, but we know that they made him an offer and he didn't take it. So if that,
well, I mean, he was there
sense.
for his Hall of Fame match ceremony with Bret Hart. He just didn't get involved. Well, he did get involved with that ATV crash. He just didn't special guest referee any matches.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So maybe that was like something they wanted him involved in, and we're, pie in the sky. This looks to me like the very first, like this is like when they sat and concepted what they wanted it to be, like without thinking storyline wise, like what are we trying to get to? And that feels like what this looked like to me as much as anything. But this show, we want to talk big picture, like Partham said, or did they want us to see this? This show is fun because it's just like it's letting you in, but not really. Like it's nothing we don't. I feel like it's nothing that I haven't heard or like seen or like I'm not familiar with. But like if you're watching with someone who hasn't seen, then there is some great behind the scenes stuff that you don't see, and it's great documentary footage following each superstar and everything. So for just that, I think it's worth the watch. But like they're still controlling it's a documentary. Like documentaries are controlled by everything, and it's fun to see how they're like new style kayfabing everybody with this, like because it's like there's some like they make Cody cut a promo. They make Cody like have a genuine moment with Triple H for the cameras, like after he wins the title. You can tell Cody is like, what the fuck's going on here? But that's the best part about it, is like you could tell they put the wrestlers in some of the awkward situations with the Netflix cameras and are kind of like, hey, like figure it out right now. So
yeah, so
it's interesting.
So you mentioning that, then I'll just ask straight up, do we think after seeing this Fightful report earlier that talent was instructed to be in Gorilla to cheer Charlotte Flair after the Royal Rumble? Do we think this is all just
I think
that all a huge
Sean Ross has been clarifying with people on Twitter.
Go ahead.
They've been clarifying with people on Twitter that talent were merely asked to, congratulate Charlotte. It wasn't like anybody was ordered to. Not like, hey, celebrate this kid's birthday that you don't necessarily like. So I don't know if it's what it's being made out to be, but it sort of puts a little doubt in your mind that what you're seeing is completely authentic.
I struggle to
to
believe that every woman in that locker room wanted to do that. Whether it was a direct order or a suggestion, maybe we'll never know. But part of them, do you think it was like suggested because they knew they were doing this series? They wanted the shot, like the good moment shot of their women's locker room there for Charlotte for this show when it eventually came out?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They wanted that little congratulatory comeback from injury shot, and you climb the mountain and you won the Royal Rumble. The one thing that's putting doubt in people's minds as to the authenticity of the leaked card. Now, take this for what it's worth because it's Wrestling Observer newsletter. But Brian Alvarez, opposite of Dave Meltzer, is pointing out that the tag match that is on that board, Becky and Charlotte, which is an odd pairing in and of itself, given their history, versus the Kabuki Warriors, Io Sky and Asuka. Asuka did not return to TV until mid-January. And of course, keep in mind, WrestleMania is about 2/3 of the way into April this year, and it's probably going to be next year again. Maybe they had an idea of Asuka returning and they just put it off because they changed their plans for whatever reason. Maybe she could have come back that early, but he's saying, oh, there's no way they could have known Asuka would have been ready if she wasn't going to be coming back until June. But I don't know. Plans can change. People can be kept on the shelf even when they're healthy because of creative, decisions. And
that's kind of why I think this board is a little manufactured, because they're making you go through that exercise to think about what's real and what isn't. Like even someone who like us who follows everything that goes along with the injuries and everything else and timing and things like that. Like now we're like, well, that doesn't make sense because this is this and that. And we know that Triple H and their their staff is terminally online as much as all of us. Like, we know that dude's got burners, or it's just his account, just looking at everything going on in the IWC at all times. So I feel like it's like, we're going to mess with them, but also just we'll give them something. We'll give them something here, but pull something away here, and you don't know which is which.
So do you think that was never like a legit card, or are you saying like it was maybe a little bit legit, but they're putting it in the show on purpose, kind of, to like?
I think it was. I think there's a lot of truth to it, but I think that they also could have just put some fakers in there, like just.
I think it's the skeleton of the card that they initially had in mind, like say in November or whatever, and they just left it there and alternate as they needed.
That's fair.
As far as these meetings, these look-ins on the meetings go, I feel like that they are genuine thoughts that they had, but I don't know if those are the genuine meetings as they happened, or if they just dramatized them after the fact and kept it to only the essentials of, who said what in these meetings, whose idea was and who was pushing for this guy and that guy to win the Rumble, to win the Elimination Chamber, to win a title at WrestleMania. So maybe it's real, but it's like the reality TV real, like where genuine, argument is had, and it's like,
you'll never know,
put it on, but recreate it the best you can.
Yeah. You'll never know the actual like severity of how real it was, and like when that, or how early on that was in the thought process and stuff.
One part that I did like, and I thought was pretty genuine, Dave LaGreca on Busted Open pointed this out, is when they're discussing the finish of Elimination Chamber, and Punk is laying out how it's going to go, where he's getting away from Cena, and then Seth stomps him after he's been eliminated, and then Cena jumps on him and takes advantage and chokes him out. And they're all sitting in a circle, which, by the way, it's bizarre to see Punk and Seth sitting in a circle, calmly discussing things and not at each other's throats. Like, okay, they're professional enough to get along and, work something out. And it seemed like the cameras were like eavesdropping on them rather than in their face, where it's like a setup moment where they say, okay, you guys are going to talk about this finish as if, it's being discussed on the spot. So I think that felt a little more genuine than some of the other spots, and maybe the writers' room discussions, which could be genuine things that were said, but maybe is a show for us.
I was gonna say that, Partham. You said that perfectly. That it feels like the wrestlers are like, they're just acting like them, like they're just being themselves. And the moments of their creative spark, like you just said that one. There's other parts where you can hear them like talking about stuff, or even just shots of them like workshopping stuff with other wrestlers. Or there was a great part in episode 1 with Rhea and Damian like talking a little bit, like him calming her down before a match. Like those things are what I was like, this is awesome, this is real as hell. And then exactly what you said too, the writers' room, that's where it feels like we're like in a whole fantasy land of Triple H is just like manufacturing this whole other TV show basically going on. I don't think conversations happen. They definitely were like, we're going to all get in this room and say who we wanted to pick. Or I don't even know if they're going to say that. I don't even believe that much. I think they're setting it like the thing that everybody picked Punk except Michael P.S. Hayes. Like
I was just about to say.
Good thinking, Triple H. Real creative.
I actually think that even if they were not the genuine meetings, I think the thoughts in them are genuine enough, because you had everybody with a different idea than what they eventually settled on to start out with. So you could see them going through the pros and cons of should it be this person, should it be that person. And as a self-admitted CM Punk mark, it was kind of both heartening and frustrating to see, half this room wants Punk to win the Rumble. Triple H and Bruce and a couple other guys wanted Punk to go over WrestleMania. And what was eventually decided upon was eventually the best way to do business. Put the rocket on Jay and have Seth, start a new faction with Paul Heyman. And he's betrayed both Punk and Roman at the same time. But what could have been?
He got out politics, brother.
I think Jay was the right decision. No one saw that coming. But in terms of this whole whiteboard thing, like real or not, did the WWE not learn from the Sabres pre-draft process? I mean, come on, like getting caught with the whiteboard it already happened, guys. The Sabres did it first. So you should write that down for next time. Wrapping up here on Wrestling with Emotion, brought to you by the region's premier gaming destination, Batavia Downs, where you win more, lots more. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. AEW Dynamite tonight. Confirmed we have, obviously, main evented AEW World Championship. Hangman Adam Page defends against the man that just lost that belt, Jon Moxley. Alex Windsor, Timeless Tony Storm versus Athena and Billy Starks. The Outrunners versus the Young Bucks. Ricochet versus Mark Briscoe. And I think we have Christian Cage and MJF both appearing live. Going to be interesting to hear what Christian has to say after being told to go find himself. Guys, what do we think of the card? Anything special we expect tonight, especially out of that main event?
After telling so many people to, forget about their dead dads, it's going to be interesting to see how they start to smoothly shift Christian into, I don't know if we call him a babyface role, but a more more rootable mode. He's going to probably come out and say, yeah, I pushed Nick Wayne to, finally stand up for himself and, betray me the way he did. But now he's going to get it because that's how it works in the wrestling industry. The only other thing is, sure, you can do a rematch of Hangman and Moxley to just hopefully blow it off for once and for all. But going from a Texas death match in front of, 25, 30,000 people to a regular one-on-one match in a ballroom in front of maybe 1,000 or 2,000 people, I don't know. It seems like their thinking's a little backwards here. I don't know about you, Jake.
It's I don't understand this match from I think there's an angle coming after it, and that's why they're doing it. But I don't know why you have to do the match to have the angle that I think they're gonna do. So if I want to give you my prediction, I think that it's a Death Riders beatdown of Mox, and Eddie Kingston is coming back and making that. They've been saving that for that. Eddie Kingston was posting on Instagram pictures of him and Mox over the last month, and so it would make a lot of sense. It would be an easy pivot to get Mox out of this world title scene, because why else would he be in? He's not gonna go away. It's not like in character. Even if he loses, he said that he said we're here to stay. Death Riders are here to stay. The only way to get him out of the title picture is by the Death Riders to implode. So maybe Kingston doesn't come back, but I do think the Death Riders, at least Mox with the Death Riders, ends tonight, and that's the only reason it makes sense.
Speaking of the title picture, what do you guys make of the unceremonious split seemingly between MJF and the Hurt Syndicate? Almost as unceremonious as what was it, Grayson Waller breaking away from Austin Theory in a backstage comment.
Yeah, I don't think. Sorry, Jake. I don't think we're totally done there. I feel like this is kind of like a prove it thing coming back and forth that might tie into a match with Lashley down the line. But what were you going to say, Jake?
I don't know what I was surprised that it happened so fast.
Definitely surprised.
But let's go back. We remember there's a couple months ago, guys. There was a tease that we talked about on this show where MJF and the Revival, FTR, I don't know why I said the Revival, but they mentioned something about being the pinnacle of wrestling. There was a mention of the pinnacle on AEW TV. And now we're in a situation where, and the same week, Max gets kicked out of the Hurt Syndicate and Edge hires the Hurt Syndicate to take out FTR. I think this has all been getting us back to that MJF and FTR and Stokely are going to be the ones who all align here. And they sent that tease. I don't remember when that Pinnacle line was, but I remember us noting it and marking it down. It had to be before all. It was way before all. It was April. It was before Double or Nothing, even when he was first really starting to try to get involved there. But that's where I think we're heading here. I think that this has been a long-term thing with FTR and Max to get back to there. And the Hurt Syndicate are a great they've been talking about. If you listen to MVP and all these interviews, all they've been saying is we want to build we want to reestablish people, make stars, everything else, to make another star faction across from them for a big warfare feud. Maybe that's where we get an impetus. I'm just my ears are up with all those connections last week. I'm perking up. We'll see where they go with it from here.
You know what? You're bringing up a good point, because they've been penciling in FTR versus Edge and Christian for the tag titles at, I believe, what events in Toronto? Is it All Out?
All Out, yep.
Yeah, so they got to get there by taking the titles off the Hurt Syndicate and putting them on FTR. So, yeah, I guess that's the direction they're going. I just don't see how. Well, okay, now I do see how Maxwell Jacob Friedman is going to factor into this. It's just after all that time of getting into the Hurt Syndicate and seemingly things being smooth for a couple of weeks there, and all of a sudden they're just split and they're gone, and now Max is going to go line himself with his old buddies.
Yeah, I honestly wonder if they if he was supposed to join earlier and they got a little bit too crazy with the reactions to the thumbs down, thumbs up thing and extended it a couple weeks too. Because there were they had a couple segments where it was the same thing for 3 weeks in a row. Oh, Max is out. Oh, thumbs up, thumbs up. Oh no. And we're
that did feel weird for sure.
So maybe
feels like they jumped on something that they thought was hot, kind of like Adam Cole and MJF, which wasn't supposed to last long, but then they just rode that. So they tried to ride this out a little bit longer, and it's like, oh, we still got to get to this endpoint at this particular event.
And we also have to, well, remember that if we're also thinking that this all ties into Edge and Cope, there's also, or to Cope and Christian, this also is the report that Christian didn't want to start remember that this match was supposed to happen at All In, and he wanted it pushed back. So if that was the case, maybe it's Christian who messed it all up. And so Max had to and so they had to find filler time for Max and the Hurt Syndicate in between that time because Christian is the one. So that's the thing about wrestling is we go back to the whiteboard that started off this whole conversation.
Card is subject to change.
Card is always subject to change. Exactly.
Definitely. Card is not subject to change tonight. The Crossing Swords boys will be going live shortly after us for the latest Sabres coverage. Mike Bunt and Carson Gates should be a good show. But this is the show where we wrestle with emotion. So before we go, boys, any shout-outs or sign-offs?
Parthy, you got any?
Just looking forward to the SummerSlam.
Indeed. It's going to be a fun weekend for the SummerSlam. Very excited about that. I'm very. Let's one round around the horn quick before we go off. What is the match you're most excited for this weekend for the SummerSlam? Because mine, it's a tie between two, really, but I'll go with one because I don't want to take one from you guys. I can't wait for Punk and Gunther. I cannot wait to see what they do. That's going to be old school, classic main event wrestling, and I'm very excited about it.
I'm looking forward to that for obvious reasons and for the reasons you said, but mostly because the sword of Damocles called Seth Rollins is still hanging over this match. And until they go off the air night one, they put the logo up and the screen fades off completely and they go to their post show. I'm not going to believe for 1 second that Seth Rollins isn't getting involved in this somehow with this Money in the Bank contract.
Wow. Yeah. I can't wait for you to get more into that on Saturday. I think we'll be going live first. Obviously, Maniac, the Prophet, and I will be in New Jersey. I'm going to give a shout out to the Crossing Swords boys. Like I said, stick around. They'll be live shortly. But everyone, thank you for tuning in. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, and Instagram. This is not the show where you wrestle with your budget, nor do you wrestle with your emotion. We wrestle with emotion. I just said the wrong thing. Fuck it. I'm going to play the ad.
Batavia down! More lots! The SummerSlam is getting closer